Exactly. But good news. I am getting an in-person interview with a hospital for a per diem position in the next few weeks. I had a phone interview with them last week, and now they want to take it to the next stage of the interview process.
Nice. Well, congratulations on that. Break a leg and all that good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here,
Fair warning. We went out to dinner tonight, and I had a drink with dinner. So I am a lightweight. So I cannot be held responsible for what might happen tonight.
Oh, this is going to be so much fun. The last time I had a drunk player was so much fun.
Oh, no, I'm not drunk. I'm buzzed, but I am not drunk. But the thing is, I get really silly when I get even a little buzzed. So, yeah, just fair warning.
well, happiness is good. And
It's all good. We're gonna need a little bit of silliness tonight.
oh, yes, indeed. Did anyone, does everyone remember where we are?
I remember.
Hello, Sophia.
As I recall, Lucio had been broiled.
Pot roasted, yes.
Yeah. Pot roasted, breaded, and, baked in an oven at around 6 million degrees. Miriam was picking off the flakes of his skin, separating it from the jacket that had now melded with his flesh.
Jacket, shirt, undershirt, the functional utilitarian watch, the well-used utilitarian pants that could be considered dressed up or dressed down depending on what they were paired with, and lastly but not leastly, the well-worn shoes, which had traveled and traversed nearly the entire width and breadth of the contiguous and non-contiguous Chicagoland area.
Miriam, Lucio, and I think there was just those two, had a lovely discussion with Blue.
Yes, Lucifer, the Morning Star. Blue.
And Sophia was about to get stabbed by an angry voivode.
Well, you should always negotiate from a position of strength. So the Voivod is one of those that understands that fundamental rule.
And Hess had gotten her ass handed to her, returned hungry, and was debating whether to eat Lucio or go save Sophia.
Go ahead, do it. Eat Lucio.
Oh, I've worked so hard. It would be an insult.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things up in the air. A lot of things not quite resolved. Because there's the not exactly sure where I heard it, but a few years ago I had entered into a phase of, watching TED Talks, and one thing stuck to me. Well, several things stuck to me, but one thing I can still recall most accurately. Decidedly because change is what was. And it's the difference of deciding to do a thing and actually doing it. It's phrases that end in ly. There's always room for negotiations at those points. And most of the characters operate in, well, I decided to do it, meaning that I did it. No, you decided to do it. Whether you do it or not is entirely up in the air. And that's the way that the underpinnings of the NPCs and SPCs operate. If they're not doing it just because they decided a thing, doesn't mean that it's actually a done deal. So until that action is carried out, it's still there in that hazy gray area. Everything's floaty and not quite real until it is. So, as we turn our gazes to this cavalcade of characters that have excited, incited, and otherwise focused our imaginations and summoned up our inner children to play in this very, very dark and occasionally traumatic world, to safely explore all of these moments of potential despair and surprising hope, I'd like to say, as always and forever, thank you for this time that you've all shared. Thank you for spending these evenings with me in these characters' heads, hearts, and minds. And yes, there is a difference between the three. Whether it is the heroic ideal that has formed the entire basis of all of Lucio's past. He is someone who has persisted and fought against the injustices around him, usually at no small cost to himself. There's Hestia, who has pursued the ideal of exploring and understanding the secrets of the world, whether scientifically or thematically. There is Sophia, who understands the infinite darkness and light possible in every existing entity, understanding that there are no heroes, there are no villains, there are simply beings doing their best to achieve their goals, whatever those goals are. And lastly but not leastly, there's Miriam. Initially cut adrift from her social structure, initially cut adrift from all of the protections that we often take for granted, finding their way in the night while trying to hold on to their ideals of what matters. And while there has been some facilitation in that, some vacillating to and fro, the underpinnings of what Miriam has been and has offered has remained relatively consistent, attempting to hold on to some semblance of control, to hold on to some semblance of who and what they believe themselves to be throughout all of the ups, downs, and sideways that they have experienced. So, long story short, or slightly shorter, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if there are no questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or corners we need to round off, we will dive in mise en scene, where we last left our coterie, where we last left our extended family. And silence is a good thing. That means that we are resolved, we are resolute in diving into tonight's episode. So this is officially Soup City Sins, Season 16, Episode 3. A last leaning straw headpiece. When we turned our gaze away and went back to our lives last episode, Silvio was pierced right through the quick of him, right through the center mass, through all of that muscled and hardened skin, right through all of that near kindred ghoul strength, right through all of that quiet servitude and loyalty. Having opened the door at the behest Sophia, at the behest Miriam, the Voivod made himself known, punctuated his arrival with the felling of a mighty oak that was Sylvia. Silvio's large form crashing back into the ground beneath him, behind him. His gaze focused through his frown of surprise, the air no longer in his lungs. The gun in his hand clattering away as his fists open and close in a near rictus moment of fighting for his actual continued existence. The Voivod standing in the doorway, dressed all in black, the collar of his station as a priest, the only bit of white, the only bit of glow and airiness breaking up all of that dark monochrome. His hair, well coiffed and cut in the most stylistically attractive presentation, his piercing dark eyes staring through as if Silvio was nothing more than a falling, wind-blown leaf. His target clear. Whoever is the power here, making an example of all of the lesser things so that they might speak almost as equals. While on the still open phone, just under 3 miles north and west of that sea, Lucio, Hestia, and Miriam listens in as the falling Silvio can only be one thing, someone large hitting the ground. And the Voivod's voice, somehow electronically magnified. Good evening.
Sophia will sort of partially growl and partially hiss into the phone that this treachery will not go unanswered, that she will hang up.
Hess is looking at Miriam. Did you know he was going to do that? Did you know he was going to kill them? Why would you tell her to open the door? Oh my god!
Miriam just looks super confused. Black-jawed. Just has no clue.
You realize if she dies, we're fucked, because then the blood hunt's back on. And she's gonna be probably pissed and think that we set her up, so the blood hunt's gonna be back on. What do? Do we go try to save her, or like what? I hope she runs.
I would suggest grabbing the stone before we leave.
What, are we just gonna throw it at him and run? Because we're probably just as much of a target as Sophie is.
But we're not the ones that use the stone.
Yeah, but we left it in her care.
Bringing it to him may be the only way to placate him and save Sophia.
Fine,
It may also be the only way that we can show Sophia that no, we weren't setting you up. It could also backfire and get us all killed, but that was going to happen anyway if we didn't do this, so may as well take the chance.
Hess looks back at Lucio one more time, gets their teeth, stomps off, grumbling, too fucking hungry for this shit.
I'm too
Honestly,
thirsty for
same.
this shit, but we're doing it anyway.
There are some moments that forever scar us. There are some moments that exist as definitive lines of our lives before and our new normal. The coterie passed that line several hundred times, dancing left and right of it, north and south of it, east and west of it, as if it didn't exist. They carry on, they persevere, they dive through, and they keep moving forward. The problem being is that if your normal constantly changes, is it in fact new or normal at all? It is running to put out fires. It is chasing behind the catastrophe, barely escaping that which dogs your heels. And as the frenetic and frantic actions of Lucio to get dressed, because even scarred and a charred remnant of himself, he is still ambulatory. There's pain, yes, but there is the fact, there is the very real impossibility that he is still here. He is still in existence. He, yet again, much like the coterie, has done the impossible. He danced in the sun and lived to tell the tale. And while Hestia, for the umpteenth time, finds herself in the presence of some power beyond herself, some battery, an engine of destruction pumping with supernal energies, Miriam has a moment to consider their meeting with the Vorvan, their meeting with their sire, the information that she provided and the information that she obtained. The dragon is no longer sleeping. Whatever aims and ends the Vorvad of the North had have taken a back burner to him collecting his property. Knowing how very angry, almost irrationally, she was with Lucio incidentally damaging artwork that was for her one of a kind, that for the world is part of her hoard. She can only imagine what would have happened if Lucio had done so purposefully. She can only imagine if she had not known or met the coterie and one of her guests in her studio decided to destroy something of value of hers. And while she is by far the most humanistic of every kindred she has ever met, she has allowed the death of innocence. She has allowed darkness to creep into the world around her through her actions, her choices, and her inactions. Now, if she was willfully pointed in a particular direction, is there anything or anyone that would actually be able to stop her? And magnify that by several hundred years of activity, of doing whatever it takes, whatever it took to protect her hoard. And that is what she instructed Miriam, and what she instructed Sophia to open her haven to. While that consideration weighs heavily on the moment, considering where is there a possibility, is there a chance, and everyone gathering their things to alight and make them run the dash, the mad drive to Sophia's haven. We pull back from the coterie's haven. We swoop through the night sky and settle in on the balcony as we watch Sophia bristling, her undead skin seemingly darkening as if it is growing more ruddy, her eyes reflecting as only the animalistic and bestial might the light that's gathering in her space, the blood welling from Silvio instantaneously darkening the floor beneath him. He'd hate that. He'd hate having to clean that stain. There are so many harsher chemicals, natural and completely laboratory made, that he'd have to use to make sure that that blood was non-relevant. Even if it was found later, it wouldn't connect with anyone or anything. He'd have to scrub the floor, remove several pieces of the tile, scrub underneath, and he'd be busily doing so, quietly in the background as she studied whatever it was that she was studying. But in the moment, Voivod steps forward, his hand squelching, the bones moving as if they have a mind of their own. And instead of turning around or making any motion with his hands to close the door, he uses the heel of his boot, and closes the door behind him. I am not sure that we have been properly introduced. I am what you might call a serious man. And you, or whomever you serve, has something of mine.
You know, contrary to what you might have heard, I am a reasonable person. I do not understand why all of you men need to come in and damage my property to say hello.
Fair trade is never theft. If this is your doing, my property being kept from me, then the insult of it has been returned. If you are a servant here, find your master, and we shall settle these matters.
Your agents have taken your property to return to you. I want you to have your property.
My agents? I have no agents in this city currently.
The ones you made a deal with to get your property back. I did not steal your property. It came into our possession honestly.
Are you aware of who did abscond with my property?
I'm aware of how we got it. It was left for the one called Lucio by the now deceased Don Castiglione.
Are you in any semblance attempting to equivocate or hide anything in this moment, Sophia?
I mean, I've spoken truthfully, so...
He pauses. He frowns as if he could see through to the very genetic strings and filaments that make you what you are. As if he can see cleanly through you down the entirety of your line to find the summation and all of the small additives and details that form who and what you are. It would be a rude look anywhere else, but it is clear that in this moment he considers himself judge, jury, and executioner, and the weight of your life, your existence, hangs on whatever it is he decides. Unlike most wanton, violent individuals, he clearly considers himself fair and weighing all of the pertinent facts before him. There's some things, some tells that give themselves away. The fact that instead of immediately continuing to move, he is pausing. He hasn't looked at Silvio, which means he considers humans and ghouls, like most older kindred, as nothing more than just property. His gaze is all about you. It is clear that he has also spent some time looking over the apartment, his occasional furtive glances around you, ensuring that you two are alone and there's no one willing to leap from the shadows or spring from near invisibility to spring a trap. I don't think that you are lying. And he would not name drop the dead many would find a way to aggrandize the fact that Castiglione is no longer a factor. You stated it as if it's a simple fact. So Castiglione absconded with my property and ensured that it was delivered to Lucio. Is this the same Lucio that is part of the Hounds, or former Hounds? The same Lucio that ruined my party?
Well, I do not know if Don Castiglione actually stole from you. It may have come to him as well. Though I would, if I had to make a judgment call, I would say that you are right on that. As far as Lucio, he was a hound, yes. I don't know anything about the ruining of parties.
I was a supplier for the Toreador as he launched his bid to become Heartbeat. I have been supplying the party each of these last 3 years. The first, the inaugural, was ruined by the Hounds of the Shelter. It's purportedly the same hounds that ended the Malkavian primogeniture, granting the Tremere their seat at the table. Are you aware as to the connection between this Lucio, this hound, and Don Castiglione?
I'm aware that they shared blood in the mortal capacity.
So he is bad-blooded Giovanni, but by embrace something darker.
We prefer the Hakata these days, but yes.
And where is my property?
The last I saw it was at their shelter. They took it with them to meet with you to return it.
And the coldonist who used my property here, setting it off like some fireworks. Where might I find this person?
You're looking at her, though I did not know it was your property when that happened. You should know I speak true. It's your property. You know what it is capable of, and I gave it up willingly.
He looks back at Silvio. The skin gray. The puddle of blood growing stickier and more by the second. Very well. And then he moves to to Silvio, standing directly over him. Crouching. One knee resting against Silvio's pants. One hand resting against his chest. I stated I would end everything and everyone that was connected with my property. Seems as if you were set up. Seems as if you perhaps are being honest. One can never tell. Not truly in these things. People, kindred, say what they need to say to continue existing. But your response, your autonomic affectation state that you may be honest. And this thing matters to you.
Is it not in my best interest to be honest at this particular moment?
It is. It will definitively lessen what I might do. But this matters to you. As someone who has their things taken, 2 things to be exact, there is a grimoire that is missing. If you find my grimoire, then return it to me. If you swear on your blood, I will save this one so that you might effectively return both of my missing items to me.
She will consider that for a moment. So if I happen to find it, or you want me to go find it?
I want you to go find it. I want it returned to me. And because I am aware as to what it is like to lose things of value, to have them taken from you, I will spare your loss of this thing as proof positive that we are now in accord. Of course, you can deny my request. Of course, you can perhaps make a fatal error and seek to attack me to achieve your pound of flesh. But I assure you, this was merely a statement of my intentions.
I am in need of allies at the moment. I will poke around and see if I can find your grimoire.
You're not very old. I'm surprised. I can smell your blood. I know that it is potent and quite dead. So, as you are younger than you seem, despite your skill at using the lodestone, I will state this plainly. You need to swear on your blood. And I will accept your pledge, your swearing, and to prove I will stop this one from crawling across the mortal coil into the other world. Can you feel it? How close he is. Fighting with all it has available to it to not go quietly into that dark night. Listen, you can hear the labored breathing, the lung filling with blood. Oh, look at that. He understands me. Look, the rage in his eye. They're such brave, foolish things, aren't they?
They certainly can be. You taunt me for my age. I feel that perhaps you may be asking me to fulfill a promise that I cannot keep. I am more than willing to endeavor to find your grimoire, and should I find the grimoire, you will have it in your hand. But if I am not able to find the grimoire, I do not wish to pronounce myself a death sentence if it is something that is being obscured and is not findable.
Everything is findable. The swearing, the pact, is a statement of perfect intention that you would much rather die than fail. Fail though you might, you will give every effort towards that goal. And no, if you fail, I will not kill you. But if you do not try, I very well might. This is what the pledge means. This is what the pact would entail.
I have made my offers that not pledge enough. We have nothing but our words.
Yes. He slides his left hand down the outside of his jacket into the pocket there. Produces a 3-inch long switchblade. He folds it open. And slides it across the floor towards you. Blood for blood. You, then myself. I swear to honor our agreement in letter and spirit, and you swear to abide by all of the efforts you are able to return not only the lodestone, but the grimoire.
Is the knife sacrificial, or will my fangs do?
Yes, it is sacrificial. It was a gift from my father in the old country. I've carried with me for far too long. Are you asking if there is some hermetic or cultonic spell on it? No. Merely a cherished item. But ceremony is important. And speaking of ceremony, as the knife sits there on the floor between you, with Silvio bleeding out, his breath almost non-existent, his lungs in fact drowning him in his own blood, the drive to Sophia's Haven, who's behind the wheel?
Question. Do you want to drive or am I?
I was saying, I normally have to drive, but I think she's too hungry to focus, so it might have to be Miriam. And also Hess would have to hold the box, so...
She can always give it to Lucio. You remember how fun that was? Them sitting in the back of Gas's van, the box sitting there, having been obtained from the Baron there in Connecticut. The look on Dizzy's face as things began to happen to the van that had kept you on the road moving for years. And then the city opening up out there in the dark, the stars not matching where you should be, the sounds of beasts in the dark, and the darkest part of the night. What's the worst thing that could happen?
I feel like that's a trick question.
Not entirely, because as you all make your way to the vehicle, and Miriam taking the hint from Heshia to slide behind the driver's seat. Lucio, there is no other way to properly envision what he is at this particular moment. He is clearly a survivor of immolation. He is clearly ruined by a blast furnace or more. And yet, he is still ambulatory. How does he dress to make it to the car he wakes up in?
Ideally, he would have something covering at least part of his face, as he does not want to draw attention when he gets out of the car. what that is. Probably just a simple mask and hat to cover something. As for the rest of his outfit, since there wasn't a whole lot of time to piece together a great outfit, it's probably just going to be a simple button-up shirt, vest, matching pants, whatever shoes he can find. Nothing fancy. He does not have the time, and his favorite clothes have been reduced to ash at this point. So he's prioritizing function over form.
Well, the shelter definitely has like extra clothes and stuff for the shelter goers, so if he can't find a pair of shoes of his own, they would definitely have something that would probably fit him. So he might end up in like some sneakers or something.
Yeah, in other words, it's very much a mismatched outfit. It's just something that looks vaguely like what he might normally prefer to wear, but with the shoes that do not fit with the outfit.
Okay. I was just curious. Do me a favor, go ahead and roll your manipulation and stealth for me. This is just a random aside of sorts. It's not quite random, as it were, because as much as the shelter, as a unit, as a group, as a coterie, enter and exit the shelter, they are local celebrities. They are persons that people recognize from, a quarter of a block away, across the street, or almost an entire block from where they actually are. So as they exit, even in the shrouded and covered garage toward their vehicle, there is, without a shadow of a doubt, the many opportunities for passers-by or people from the neighborhood to have glimpsed the three of them, the four of them, the five of them, as they've been leaving, coming, appearing, and disappearing. It's one of the many reasons why the more secret entrance from the morgue down that swirling, turning tunnel into darkness is utilized, or had been utilized as much as it had been. Now, in the course of doing so, using it nearly every night, it did draw attention to it from persons and personages the coterie would have much rather not been made aware of. However, as they make it to the vehicle, enter into the parking garage and circumvent and circle around most of the denizens of the shelter, leaving with the nuclear reactor that is the lodestone. As they ease into the vehicle and take off into the night on their mission of mercy. Mercy for themselves first and foremost, and mercy for the world at large, to keep it from calling due the bill they've written time and time again. There is a power in notoriety. There is a power in being who and what they have been perceived as. That power does not run amok in the moment. That power doesn't have any hangers-on or stalkers trying to impede their path or to ride their shadow. It is a moment of calm as far as such things go. The drive from the shelter to Sophia's haven. And while it is only a drive of about 6 minutes moving directly, well, most directly, you can take the long way if you like, but who knows what may entail arriving a moment too late or otherwise being indisposed. The question of your path is on you, Miriam. You take the most direct route to Sophia's haven.
Probably, yes.
And in that 5 to 6 minute drive, Hestia, is there anything that Hestia is doing besides holding the box?
Yeah, I was about to say, it's a long shot for her because she knows that Sophia thinks that they don't like her or that she might not answer. But on the small chance that Sophia answers the phone, having either run or something changed, she is going to call Sophia so that she can say, hey, we are on our way. We had no idea, so she's gonna call Sophia.
Sophia's a little busy at the moment to be making phone calls or taking them.
Oh, that definitely changes the tenor of the conversation. Sophia is unfortunately old enough where her phone is probably just turned down and not on silent, not on vibrate. So there's the chiming in the background of it going off as Sophia and the Voivod of the North sit talk over their pact and discuss the value of the blade and the potential saving of Sylvia. There's the every few seconds.
She is rather focused when she wants to be, so she will just continue to ignore it.
For the conversations of saving Sylvia, the lullaby still crouched there, the knife sitting there on the floor, asking about the fangs, and Sylvia is the one being present who quirks the brow at the The lack of answer normally means death. There's no other way around it. And with the coteries history, being out of contact is typically a death sentence, whether it happens right away or something that takes a few days or a few months. Simone was frequently out of contact. And all of those moments of being out of contact, out of communication, led to his servitude to Modius, his servitude to Don Castiglione, led to his death not once, but twice. Being out of contact is how Alex ran afoul of the mages at the monastery. Being out of contact is how Clyde fell into the government's hands. Being out of contact, out of communication, is how Lucio and Hestia left Dizzy. And Vivi. And Julius. And Mr. Orm himself. And being out of communication, and being out of contact, is how Joseph left Hestia in the shooting gallery with all of those dark, hungry things. So yes, there is some tension rising and ratcheting. Hestia, would you be so kind as to roll 1/3 of your humanity and your unspent willpower? DC 2. And while that roll was happening, Lucia, would you be so kind as to roll your wits plus either insight or awareness?
Would a specialty in concealed objects apply or no?
No.
Then the roll is the same.
So, in order of operations, as Miriam pulls onto the block where Sophia's Haven is, and you all see that there is the usual amount of activity. Nothing's extraordinarily standing out. There doesn't seem to be something hanging in the air over your head. There doesn't seem to be an unnatural quiet or anything that otherwise stands out as you all look for a parking spot. There are many things happening inside the vehicle, namely the energies and strength expended on Hestia's part, keeping that darker portion of herself from tearing free of her chest, from turning the vehicle into a bloodbath, from otherwise crushing the box in her hands. The slight vibration from the sheer amount of force being held at bay fills the car with that creaking that only wood has. A small growl of annoyance sitting there as the plastic of her phone cries out for relief of the pressures it is suddenly put under. Lucio is aware that this is the same lodestone, the same dark manifestation of the first city. This is the same thing that had, on multiple occasions, through direct and indirect means, taken them into the bodies and minds of others, taking them into the spaces between worlds, into that maze that exists beneath the succubus, taking them into that same distant space via the destruction of the Queen of Spades. This is the same grenade going off over and over and over. And of you all, there are exactly 2, 3 now. Kindred, you know, should not be in direct contact with it, because of a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, and a little bit more is considerably worse. And Hestia is one of the more knowledgeable members of the coterie you've met, along with Sophia and Hestia's student, Alex. And the last time that thing was given real vent of its own volition, you all ended up in a place that doesn't exist, at a time that was neither in the past nor in the future, but are somehow both. And you pull onto Sophia's block. Yet, small little details stand out to you. Namely, the lights are flickering. Not in that electric browning that normally happens as the flow bounces back and forth. The alternating current, no, it's flickering as if those bulbs are not bulbs but are flames, gas, torchlight. Though sufficiently bright enough to light the street as the actual street lamps do. There's a small bit of a groove happening beneath the tires, as if you are driving both over asphalt and brick streets at one moment. And while no one else seems to notice, you do. Your connection to the darkness, your connection to the oblivion, driving home that something is afoot, something bad.
In typical Lucio fashion, his first response is Oblivion Sight to see if it's something supernatural that he can spot.
Excellent. Sophia, would you do me a favor? Roll your manipulation and oblivion, and get as high as you can, because you're setting the DC for Lucio's new site. That's it.
Ay caramba. And what am I rolling against that?
Wits plus Oblivion. The girl
Well then.
sitting next to you seems familiar. So familiar, in fact, that you are positive in your soul that she has been here the entire time. In fact, if you are being completely honest, she is a face that you have seen almost non-stop for the last several months, as far as you can tell. And many souls who did not go fleeing into the night, and when she was missing is what made the moment stand out to you. When the battle that was taking place or had taken place had driven all of the spirits from your immediate vicinity. Her face not being there was something that made the moment stand out in vast relief, is what drew your attention to the strange quietude to begin with. And she's there. And Blue is sitting on the hood of the car, riding as if he is the prince of the parade, as if he is the king of the quarter, as if this is his ride and his show. And out there in the distance, on the sidewalks around you, the souls who were continuing on their nightly existence, repeating the steps of their death, or the moments that most hold them here on this side of the veil, stop and notice as you all pass, begin to point. And while you don't recognize the face and you know that they are not in fact spirits, you do see two normal, average humans watching the trajectory of the vehicle you are in as it moves along the street. And while the other souls begin doing more than paying attention, they begin to slowly follow. Those two stand out because unlike the other humans, the other mortals, the other non-grade and otherwise completely dead entities, they see you all. They pay attention. They notice you. And while that is being mulled over, Miriam, would you be so kind as to roll your wits plus streetwise or wits plus draw? There's a parking spot about 4 doors from Sophia's building. That parking spot has been left open almost purposefully. You can tell based on how the other cars are parked. They are a rarity in Chicago. People don't park like they should. They take up 1.5, 1.25, 2 spots even. But it is clearly left open, as if the people that live on this block or live in this area know whom or what might be parking there. But at every port in the storm, and in an emergency such as this, the decorum that one might show, or deference one might show, is definitively out of the window. Unless it's not.
No, I'll go ahead and park there.
Yeah. screw them and the horse they might think about riding in on next time. But for right now, you all have pressing business. You have something that is far more important than any social considerations in the moment. As you all easing along the curb, going to the spot, there is a definitive feeling as if something just walked over your grave. There's a feeling that something is not quite normal. Of course, nothing in this moment is. You are driving with a box that holds a piece of the first city that doesn't exist in this world yet, somehow has manifested as such. You are heading into what is more than likely a crime scene, if not a full-on slaughter. You are driving with the charred remnants of a dead thing. See, that's what all kindred are. Completely and totally dead, yet Lucio clearly has 9 lives. And through it all, Hestia is all but vibrating with a malice of intent and rage barely kept in check. As her phone still rings and rings and rings.
The sooner we get this done, the better. There's eyes on us everywhere, on both sides of the veil.
Great, let's go.
She is out of the car and towards the door. That's not quite breakneck speed, but just under it. But then
All right,
realizes
I will assist Lucio.
that Miriam should probably be the one that approaches the Boavada and gives him back the stone, because she's not going to put herself within arm's reach.
All right, great. I'll help Lucio up. You get it up there.
There's always a moment when the world seems to slow down purposely to annoy you. And that's what the elevator up to Sophia's penthouse is like. It is as if it is purposefully trickling at less than a full drop to purposefully annoy you all. And being as close as you all are in the elevator with the lodestone, you're not sure that that is not the case. Because you can feel a presence there with you. You can feel a weight that has changed the expected room sounds of this elevator. There is a additional bit of darkness here with you all. And if you apply yourself and listen, you can hear it whispering. But if you return this, you lose all of your victories. Well, speaking
As Hestia is standing in the elevator, she's like literally like bouncing on her toes. And it's like, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. It has to go back, it has to go back. And shut up. He's gonna kill us if you don't.
you already lost Dizzy. You were there. You watched how it happened. You were willing to die permanently to keep Dizzy from dying. You failed twice. This could undo all of that. This could keep Stella from going into the dark. This could protect protect you so that you wouldn't have to rely on any other monster. This is enough power in the palm of your hand to upturn the entirety of the city government. No prince, no primogen, no harpy, no herald, no sheriff, no hound could actually challenge you. And you're just going to give it away.
She's like legitimately shaking her head, and she doesn't know if the other two can hear what she's saying, but she's... Nope, you're not gonna talk me into this bullshit. This is what got us in this mess in the first place. I'm gonna do the right thing.
No, what got you into this mess was giving it away the first time.
Is Hess actually talking out loud, or is she talking in her head?
Very much.
Oh no, Hestia is out loud.
So only Hestia hears this, right? This isn't like all of
We
us,
don't
right?
hear this.
Yeah,
Yes.
you hear the voice, you just hear Hestia.
Yes, and yes. You hear Hestia's conversation, but there is a very thin whisper, as if you can feel it on the other side of the conversation, as if something or someone is incidentally and accidentally opening up a speaker phone so that you all can hear from a distance. A little small, tinny thing. There is enough power in this box to keep you all safe. Permanently. Elijah wouldn't be under investigation. Your mother and father could have their memories back. You can ensure that no one and nothing threatened you again. You can bring back all the dead members of your coterie. You could travel to the first city, collect their souls and bring them back, giving them the opportunity to not have to exist as kindred.
And that, I'm assuming, is directed at Lucio.
You all are beginning to hear the whispers. All of that information is what you feel you are hearing. All of that information is coming through you to you, almost as if it is an absent radio signal and you found the wrong bandwidth. Or right bandwidth, as the case may be.
Lucio is going to try and ignore it and just act as if he's unbothered by it.
And you see,
Because if he does start responding to it, he feels like he might actually start giving in.
you should be so kind as to go ahead and roll your resolve plus composure. DC 2. Miriam, are you going to communicate with the whispers you're hearing, or are you going to try to tune them out?
I am not going to communicate with it. What I'm going to do is, if I'm wearing a jacket, or if Lucio put a jacket on over his suit, take that off and put it over the box like a parrot.
Excellent. You should be so kind as to go ahead and roll your resolve plus composure DC 2. Because the one thing that connects all of the whispers is that it is speaking of things that you don't know but have no reason to doubt. These are facts. These are not someone or something's truth, their idea as to what the facts mean. These are facts being spewed and offered There's the very real understanding that information, that knowledge is power. And you all are being gifted knowledge you don't have immediate access to. And as you wrap your jacket around the box, around Heshia's hands, you don't mean to, but you begin tying the sleeves together to keep the box from being able to be opened easily without either tearing through the jacket or finding a way to untie that knot that you shouldn't be able to tie with sleeves. Your upbringing, having read the Daring Book for Girls, clearly showing itself.
Such an awesome book.
And Astia, being as you're still conversing with it, as Miriam closes on you, wrapping her jacket around you in your hands and tying the box to it, you know that right this moment that Myers is offering himself to save Vivi's life. They've already ended the previous night with the death of one of Blakeney's children. They've already sent their missive to Thornton Township, and you know that because of the machinations and the games having been played, that his offer is accepted. You know that before the sun rises again, Myers will be facing the judgment of the city government. You know that his offer and all the information in his head is what most people assume will be theirs, is what his enemies on the city government think. And you know that there are places you can go, no matter what the pain is, to just last long enough to provoke someone to kill you instead of torture you. Because you can respond honestly to every and any question and still never reveal the truth. You can lie with fact. You can deceive with honesty. And if anyone can do that long enough to annoy, you are sure it is him.
That part almost breaks her. The tears start. She is openly shaking and crying and shaking her head and debating every choice she's ever made. And she looks at Miriam. Take it. Take it now, or I will lose my nerve.
Okay. Once Miriam's done tying the jacket, she will take the box. Being very careful to not touch the box itself, just the jacket.
It very much is a coiled viper. It very much is an unshielded radioactive bit of weaponry. And the moment that she takes it fully into herself, where her senses having been expounded and expanded as they have in the last few weeks, she realizes that there are 8 monstrous things in close proximity in this building. 8 monstrous things that should not exist. 8 things from beyond every ideal of what life could be or should be. 8 monstrous things that would lay wreck and ruin to the world at large. And this is in the entirety of the building. Not the many hundreds of gray lights and softer, smaller things. No, these are apex predators. Speaking of predators, top of the line, top of the heap, king of the mountain, queen of the world. The blade sits there naked, open. It's glinting with moonlight. It is clear that it has been lovingly oiled and sharpened repeatedly. It is clear that it is a switchblade that they don't make anymore, because it is in fact a real 100% original blade. Someone handcrafted every facet of the blade there. Its value being 100% emotional, looking from the blade to the voivode to Silvio's stilled form. What is it that Sophia has in mind?
She will scoop up the knife, look at the man who has entered her house with violence, as apparently all men do when they come to visit. And she says, I fully understand the value of sentiment and symbolism. She draws the blade across her arm.
There's a certain class, a certain manner of operation that Sophia has grown accustomed to, even with this wild rabble that she now associates with, that she literally has the drop on. She is their linchpin, and the reason why they might exist longer than an eye blink, even amongst them, even with as wild and rambunctious as they can be and have been, there's a class and a decorum. And as she draws the blade across her flesh, it opening, as if it is the skeleton key to life itself, and her vitae begins to bubble a little bit because it's near the surface. The voivode inhales and his fangs sliding into place. You have an interesting bouquet. And almost as if he has completely forgotten about Silvio, or the fact that Sophia has a naked blade in her hand, crosses the floor to her as if he is drawn like a magnet. Might I have the blade?
She will hand the blade over and knot in his neck.
Though she does see that image flashing before her and behind her eyes. The blade at this close, there would not be time enough for him to do anything except for accept it into his flesh. From this close, there's nothing in this world or the next that would be able to stop her from at least ripping open bits of his flesh. There's nothing he would do. He is completely off guard. He is at Sophia's mercy. And she's never liked priests to begin with. There's something insidious about that. A kindred who operates as a priest. A kindred who utilizes the faith and faiths of the multitudes as a weapon, as a tool, as a gratifying release for their own issues. All the same, she hands the blade over. And you are sure in your heart of hearts that he's going to take the blade and he's going to run his tongue across the little few microscopic splatters of your vitae. But he doesn't. He takes it across his palm. And as his vitae wells up, he wipes the blade on his pants leg and turns full back to Sophia, moving towards Silvio. We are masters of ghouls, of all sorts, of all stripe. There is a thread that ties them, connects them to their masters. These thralls are ours to do with as we deem. And he crouches once more, resting his knee against Silvio's form. His palm still leaking vitae. It is clear that he is willing it to the surface of him. And he hovers over Silvio's mouth and nods a wicked razor blade smile on his lips as he drip, 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 drip into Silvio's mouth, across his lips, into his being.
Well, geez, I could have done that.
You could have, but you wouldn't have. You believe in the idea of life and death and all of those things, shocked and dismayed by what may befall. This thing of yours is this thing of yours, to do with as you choose, how you see fit. And you very much would have allowed them to cease being mortal, cease being this side of the veil. Your youth betrays you. Oh no, I can't damn another thing, so it is one of the many cruxes that you will lose as time goes on. But for now, I give you your thing back. And as he says, I give you your thing back, your front door opens. Miriam standing with the box wrapped in her coat. There's a crusty, destroyed wreck of a thing that you know is Lucio, standing with a N95 mask and sunglasses he no longer needs, as well as an LA Dodgers baseball cap over a mixed-matched collection of business casual attire with Converse All-Stars on his feet. To Miriam's right, a half step behind, is Hestia, looking as if the entire world is cracked over her head and leaked yoke upon every facet of her being. The anger there is barely contained. And just like that, the odds go from Sophia and the deceased Silvio against the Voivod to Sophia, the formerly deceased Silvio, Miriam, Lucio, and Hestia against the Voivod, if it came to it. What is everyone's decision as you all see the Voivod crouched over Silvio's form, dripping vitae into his formerly closed mouth? You can tell by the splatter as it leaked over his lips and down his gullet, down his face, running into that pool of blood beneath his large form.
It's very tempting, but long game.
Hess knows that if she got too close to the person that hurt somebody that she even marginally cared about, because she had kind of come to like Silvio, she might do something dangerous. So she is going to, in her Mighty Mouse height, kind of put her hands on Miriam's back and kind of push her forward. Tell her you're sorry. Tell her we didn't know he was going to do that. Give him his stone back, goddammit.
Lucio is going to hang back with Hess and just put a hand on her shoulder and just tell her, calm down, Hess. Focus. Let Miriam handle this.
Don't understand. They're going to kill Joe.
Miriam is immediately, because it's what she does, crouch down beside Silvio, put the box down, and start checking his wounds.
Sophia's eyes will drift to them as they enter and just glare daggers and then back to what's going on.
There's no need to roll for Miriam. There's no need to roll for Sophia. There's no need to roll for Lucio. And despite every weight, there's no need to roll for Hestia. It is clear, beyond every shadow of a doubt, what is happening here. You all are witness to the birthing of Silvio. You are witness to the ending of one state of being and the beginning of another. There's no way even a ghoul could lose that much blood and still exist as they were. There's no way, there's no possibility, even with your history and penchant for doing the impossible. It is the new normal. The coterie loses things that are taken from them, but never truly lose that thing, that person, that presence. Life persists, the clinging to life, even in the dark facsimile that is the lives that they currently inhabit. Whether it is Blue's continual resurrection and his flouting of the rules, whether it is the ghosts of coterie members past, whether it is the unfinished and unresolved moments that have brought the coterie forward in time to now, there is a tenacity that the presence of the coterie has. Those who enter into their presence persist. They hold on. They cling to every scrap they can. And Silvio is no different. It is impossible for Lucio to not think of his first night awaking in that charnel house that was the processing center. It is impossible for Hestia not to remember the conversations that her and Karen had, which led to, well, her death. It is impossible for Sophia to not think back to that chamber, that moment, those hands, and the reason behind it, all of the training that led to that moment, the final act, or as the case may actually be, the final acts. It is impossible for Miriam to not think back to her sire. Those hands, those conversations, those asides, and that small bit of preparation they did, the flouting of the rules that every other kindred in Camarilla held territory had to abide by. And as everyone's thought goes to their first nights, dead, disconnected from life, there's a glaring 1 + 1 = 2 moment that starts with a small spark and rockets through each of them. Hestia is ravenous. Lucio needs mending. And throwing into the mix, adding to that volatility, literally pouring kerosene on a bonfire, is a soon to rouse newly dead Childer. The voivode, as Miriam is looking over Silvio, rises, lifting up her jacket with the box inside, and moves towards the door.
The blood is potent. Perhaps 10, maybe more minutes. As per our agreement, I look forward to receiving the grimoire. Good
And
evening.
how will I know this? How will I know this grimoire? There are many grimoires in the world. I assume it does not have your name on it.
Not any name that you might recognize.
But it is carved in sigils denoting its ownership. Look for the dragon along the spine. Look for the blood marking each page. Look for the edges frayed with my scent.
Fair enough.
Miriam will stand up and bow. My apologies. I was under the impression our meeting was tomorrow evening.
Our meeting, yes. But someone utilized my thing, setting off a flare that was seen for 3 states, if you but have eyes. Did you believe that I would not come for what is mine? That I would wait? No.
I will nod. I understand. So I hope you understand that we did intend to honor our agreement.
Intentions change. But I have what is mine for now. And we have a pact. Your master and myself. Good evening.
Arch an eyebrow. Good evening.
And as he passes Lucio and Hestia, he inclines his head. Good evening.
Good evening.
And continues on his way. It's funny.
In exiting and escaping the moment, the elevator doesn't seem to be held by anyone exiting or entering in a late hour such as this. As the doors close and the reverberations of the power of the lodestone begin to fade, you all are standing in the doorway and kneeling on the floor of Sophia's penthouse condo. Silvio, his body, like all dead things, has already lost a good portion of its heat. His body, just like each and every one of yours, upon the transformation from dead to simply not alive, begins to lose a small bit of color. And the scent of his cooling blood on the floor is a small aggravant to Hestia. The elephant in the room trumpets its horn. You have a child there in front of you that will need satiation. You have a building of humans beneath you. And you have a conversation that is needed by you all. Trust is not an easy thing. And once lost,
there's almost never a return of it, not without significant Herculean efforts.
I stare very carefully, almost as she's scared that she'll break something. Arms tight to her side. Walks in and puts as much space between her and Silvio as she possibly can. And then looks at Sophia.
Lucio, go ahead.
You heard what I said in the hallway, and I know you don't believe me, but we didn't know he was coming here. I didn't know that he was going to do that I've never met the man. I didn't know he was going to do that when he opened the door. That's why we're here. That's why we brought him his fucking stone, so that maybe things would be okay. And it was talking to me in the elevator. I'm about to lose somebody I really, really care about because I gave up that fucking stone. So you can't be mad at us, okay?
Is there something I have not done, something I have not provided for you, and not shared my resources, my knowledge? Have I not stepped in and intervened to show you what I am capable of? Have I done anything that has not been partially on your behalf, that you have not benefited from? He is useless to me now. 17 years we have been together. He would have been more useful on the other side of the shroud. Now I have to kill him.
Wiping at her tears, she looks at Miriam.
Miriam will look up, ignoring what Sophia said. He's going to need food.
She thinks we betrayed her. Aren't you listening? She thinks we sent him here on purpose, and we didn't. We didn't know.
Miriam will arch her eyebrow. She can believe as she wishes. She knows the truth. It's politically advantageous to threaten us, but he will need food.
What do I gain from threatening you? I've already saved all your lives. What more can I gain?
How would sending someone to kill you benefit us?
You would remove me from the picture. You're not exactly historically renowned for making the wisest decisions.
Why would we call the blood hunt on ourselves by having you killed?
Why would you attack a primogen? Why would you kill a primogen? Why would you kill a regent?
We didn't kill a regent, as far as I know. I'm a regent. That's weird. The primogens that were killed were direct threats to us and attacked us first.
Am I not a direct threat to you?
Are
I hear
you?
your conversations.
Are you saying you are?
Doesn't matter what I say, it only matters what you feel. And as we're conversing here, she moves over to kneel by Silvio.
Everyone that has children, and many people who don't, marvel at a child's first steps. There's several things that families individually and traditionally do as part of certain cultures around the world. There's practice, there's the boot scooting, there's the helping them walk, there's standing them on your feet. There's several hundred different things and permutations of preparing a child for their first steps, because everyone marvels at those first steps. No one wants to miss those first steps. Those first steps for a kindred are horrendous. Those first steps for a kindred usually result in the disillusion of life for several individuals. Those first steps are traumatically scarring to the point that even those with sharp faculties and willful senses of pride forget and have those moments taken from them to protect them from the monsters that they are. It begins with a twitch, the pinky finger, which still is wearing his father's signet ring, and moves from the left pinky to the other fingers, the scrabbling, the clawing, the twitching, as those neurons begin firing, as if he is slowly establishing a signal between the weight of his kindred soul and the dead body that now houses him. Seconds pass. Soon, that ravenous beast that every child is will be there, awash in all of that blood. That scent that even now Hestia is barely able to tolerate without losing herself. That scent which nettles even Miriam's humanistic sense of self, calling to that beast at the back of her head. That scent that makes it extraordinarily difficult to not lick the floor clean for Lucio and Sophia.
She will give a last glance to them and sigh, and then she will grab Silvio's arm and bite into it.
Bringing his arm to her mouth as she sinks Fang to the outside of that arm. She has the light glinting off of that signet ring, and she remembers the last time she saw it being worn by its original owner, Silvio's father, dying before them at her mother's whims.
And she will drink. And there'll probably be a couple tears.
Chris looks confused. Hey, what? What? He, what are you
She
doing?
believes he's useless. There's been enough death.
All right. So, as this is happening, Silvio's eyes are fluttering open, bloodshot though they are, as the scent of actual vitae coursing and coating Sophia's lips, and her face is streaked by her salty vitae tinged tears. Is there anything anyone is doing?
I think it's best if Lucio doesn't say anything in the moment, so he's just going to watch.
Alright, that being the case, Sophia, please roll your humanity plus your blood potency.
Hess looks at the other two. We're just gonna let her kill him again?
There's no hunger on this roll, right?
No.
You're not gonna stop her.
What do you want me to do, Hess?
I'm talking to Miriam. And she's so worried about everybody's life all of a sudden. Why don't you just help him?
This is really beyond her area of expertise. But Miriam will say she thinks we've already betrayed her. This is her own punishment. She's chosen this. She'll have to live with the guilt.
It is a dog-eat-dog world out there. The Akata, more specifically the Rossellini, or Brother Giovanni, are notorious for their ability to understand the many worlds that exist, the many strata and levels of death that exist beyond this one, dealing, commanding, sometimes entering into actual partnerships with those that no longer exist and those that had never existed in the lands of the dead. It imbues them monolithically with an understanding that nothing is ever over, even as all things end. States end, change happens. And while it is an impossibility, it's something that should never be, because upon awakening, there is just monstrousness. There is a demand for satiation. The beast has full control. Yet, as Sophia drinks down Silvio, his right hand rises slowly, seekingly, his bloodshot eyes staring out. The pleasure of the kiss finally not denied him, and he reaches over with his right hand and strokes her cheek as she drinks him down.
as every semblance of life fades from him. Is that all you want? No worries. Sure thing. And his skin grays. The weight of him suddenly seemingly dissipating instantaneously. His chest sinks in. What little color remained in his pale skin fades to nothingness. His eyes go almost completely white, as if he has been dead for months, years, decades. Sophia, you have 5 XP to spend immediately, and you lose 1 point of humanity. As Silvio slips into the state of nothingness, the limbo between this world on the other side of the shroud, the other side of the veil, she knows that he would have willingly, even in his present state, as one of the damned, sacrificed all that he could be to ensure her safety, to protect her interests.
Human beings, living members of this world, instinctually have a feeling when something no longer exists, when something has died, when something has crossed over. You know it and you fear it. Even those of us who have not actually been in the presence of death in the offing. When you come upon a body or a person lying far too still, or an animal along the side of the road laying far too still. We know it and we fear it instinctively, instinctually. And the same is not to be said for kindred. There's a not inconsiderable part of each of the gathered kindred that longs for that last final sip, to drink down another soul, to engage in that true absorption, in that true satiation. And while you don't want to give it voice, that dark thought and its myriad of cousins that assail each of you, it doesn't go away just in you wishing it to not be. It still sits there whispering, you could have taken part of it. You could have been there too.
Hess can't deal with it, so she turns away and heads towards the kitchen, thinking that maybe there's some blood bags left somewhere in the kitchen that she can have, and she doesn't want to be there for this last little bit of what's going on in the doorway.
As you move into the kitchen, and the remnants of Silvio's handiwork is all over the drawers inside, you notice that the products are alphabetized by type and by product, i.e. the manufacturer, as well as what the product actually is. And you realize that each of those drawers are neatly put away in such a way that understanding who he was makes it easy enough to find the area, if not the exact item, because everything has a place. And there's a place for everything neatly filed away, almost obsessively so.
Seeing that, she lets out a scream of frustration, and it takes a lot of self-preservation, like self-restraint, not to just start breaking things in the kitchen.
The slamming of doors as she screams and tries not to give vent to breaking everything, slamming the door off its hinges, breaking the drawer out of its place, spilling the contents of each drawer all over the floor, ratchets up to a power of 10 of itself as she realizes that in the drawer in the cabinet nearest the refrigerator, each of their glasses that they used last time has been put to the side for them to use again. The glasses, he served them quietly and needfully without drawing attention to himself, by being there and being ready to assist them in assisting his mistress. And she looks. Sophia, backwards is Miriam. That's the glass I had. And right between me and Miriam there is Lucio's glass. Washed and cleaned and stored for later use. No less itemized, no less ordered.
Does she find what she's looking for?
Intelligence plus larceny, DC 2.
And while Hestia is rummaging through the kitchen, drawer after drawer, unfortunately for the auditory weight, the drawers are self-closing and quiet closing drawers, so there's no sound except for the occasional growl and shriek from Hestia from the kitchen. What is Miriam and Lucio doing as Sophia sits saying goodbye to Sylvia?
Well, I'm sure there's a body bag around here somewhere. Oh, Mary, go rummaging for one of them?
Lucio simply looks at Sophia and says, "So what happens now?"
She looks up at him briefly. She wipes the back of her mouth and her cheeks, wipes her bloody hand on her skirt. Says, "Tomorrow we go to Milwaukee, so I can tell them that I am the leader of the Hakata in Chicago." And then she stands up.
If you're going to become the leader, you're going to need to find a replacement for him.
It's not like I can call to HR and have them send me someone up from the secretarial pool.
We do have one other ghoul, if you remember.
Your ghoul?
Yes.
Al's ghoul now?
Al has him? I thought he was still with the Tories.
Al is a Tory, or was before he was embraced.
I see. In either case, having him back would be in our best interest now that we no longer have Silvio.
Would be in your best interest.
It would be in your best interest too. I work for you now, remember?
More or less.
Besides, if you really need to, you can take over his regency if needed.
This is not how things are done in the family. He is your ghoul, he is your property. I appreciate that you offer your property to me, but I humbly decline.
Very well, but in either case, it'd be better to have him back in our service as soon as possible. We need someone to watch over us while the sun is out.
I can tell you this. I do not know where he is, and I do not think we will find him. Because of an agreement that was made, Al wants to keep him under wraps.
Well, that's a problem.
It is a problem. As for your girls, who knows where they are now?
I know where they are, but I don't know what happened to them after last night.
If you know where they are, I can send someone to look.
I'd rather go myself. I need to know myself.
The aphorism of staring into the void definitely holds true, especially as at base, Lucio is existing proof of what happens when the void stares back through you. From the moment of him taking his first non-breath as a kindred to now, there has been a consistent darkening of all that he is. And the truth of the matter is, if he's being completely honest with himself in this moment, part of him seeking resolution, seeking knowledge, is to finally have a reason to vent that pit of unending rage that someone, something, even those things that no longer exist, like Mama Hugo or Don Castiglione, his father, have done heinous things to people or beings he cares about. He'd have an opportunity to give that rage, that aspect of his beast, full leash. Even if they so much as simply made them cut their hair. Even if they simply have them chained up in some dark room. Even if the only thing they did was not provide them their favorite meal. Because he knows that his sisters are always on their phone. Nothing but the direst of situations could keep them from reaching out to him or entering his call. He wants to hurt something, someone, some series of someones. And just like that, as that quiet realization prowls around the back of his understanding, you hear both Miriam and Hestia. Oh my God! Miriam finds the collected information, having tracked Nash's habits and his path back through their original finding of him and his business, his board-up company. Seems as if Silvio did not quite stop pulling that thread and has begun tracking each and every manifestations of Nash's company back to his original sailing ship as the original version of himself, as the pirate he once was. It looks massive. It looks indecipherably detailed as various names fall away to the previous generation, going back to that simple standing root. There is a family tree that unveils itself through commerce. And she knows what name and what line the dancer in red is. While in the kitchen, there is a bottle that Hestia finds that causes her dead blood to run cold. There were 5 members of Dizzy's troupe. They made their way to Chicago. There were 5 kindred bent and bound together. And she knows that at least one of them, and it looks very much like 2 of them, ended in the care of the Wan Kwa, rendered into vats to concoct vitae-rich victuals, aperitifs, alcohol that provided blood-like effects while still inebriating the Wan Kwa and kindred who partook. The bottle she finds is emblazoned with a face she had hoped to never see outside of her nightmares and remembrances of that moment of living inside their heads. She knows that somewhere out there in the night, right now, is a former member of the troupe being used as a vat to continue rendering such treats. She looks at the bottle and sees his face, the name written along the side, and the fact that it is corked as a well-made stout would be is almost enough to make her drop the bottle. Almost. But her hunger keeps her from doing so. Her calm, scientific understanding of what she is holding keeps her from doing so, but just barely.
Okay, so she knows the face and is definitely having a reaction to it. What kind of alcohol is it saying is on the bottle?
Oh, it's a cream sherry.
It's delicious after dinner aperitif, a dessert wine of sorts. You're supposed to sip it or quaff it and be done. The sort of wine you could take a shot of. It is literally that strong, though designed to sip slowly. A cordial glass would be enough for a serving.
Shaking her head, but her fangs are itching badly. And she has been so good the rest of the night. She ran away instead of intending to keep fighting those people. She hasn't sunk Fang into Lucia. She didn't try to take a bite of Silvio. This is the straw that breaking the camel's back. And she goes for the glass that she last drank out of and pops the top on this, knowing this is so wrong what she's about to do, but it's this or nothing. She's going to lose her shit. And she pours a hefty measure into the cup and just starts gulping.
Miriam, the moment that the Vilified left, the number of monsters she felt in the building lessened. There were 6 presences, or the effective strength of 6 monsters in the building. As she stands there looking at the homework that Silvio has been doing since that night of hearing, "Please help me," that presence of 6 monsters begins to waver and lessen. And there is a remarkable stench of life wafting from the kitchen. Sweet and spicy. And while it's not a pie, she's no cartoon character, she definitely begins to be drawn towards the kitchen as the scent begins wafting out of it. Lucio never closed down his oblivion sight, which normally is not a problem. He knows what he has seen here in Sophia's presence. He knows what this space has been and is. It is only as the subtle emanations from the kitchen begin wafting and that glowing loss of life lights a path for him that things change. There is no other person in the kitchen save Hestia. There shouldn't be the leaking miasmic trail of something dying, yet there is. And it is everything in Sophia to not immediately head into the kitchen and begin putting things away where they belong. She knows where all the cleaning products are. She's never used them. She 15 minutes ago couldn't tell you where anything was, but she knows exactly what products to begin removing. She knows how to pull those tiles up and clean that blood up. She also knows who to call to have the body removed.
Let's just scoop that phone up off the floor and make that call. You know what? She won't, actually. She's not going to do that. Not yet. She will scoop the phone up off the floor and put it in her bloody pocket, and she will go sit in the safe room for a while. Or the Faraday cage.
Lucio figures she needs time to herself and will instead head to the kitchen to figure out what is that smell.
How many belts does Hestia take?
She's at hunger 4. And like I said, she poured a glass. She doesn't like drink it like shots. She's like gulping. But yeah, how many would she need to reduce the hunger 1?
Oh, well, see, therein lies the dilemma. She's never drunken this before. She wouldn't have an understanding as to how much too much. So as Lucio steps into the doorway, and the world tilts on his axis a little bit, it is hard not seeing Lucio as Alston right now. It is very hard to not see Lucio as the kindred that she is drinking down. Yet she knows that Lucio is not Alston, but yeah, that's definitely Alston. The dark hair, the questioning eyes, the constantly working at puzzles. He's fucking Alston. How did Alston get here? Last time you saw him, with you and he were fighting across the parking lot with all those SWAT covered individuals. And Dizzy was running the other way. You were opening a path for her, and Alston almost made it. And you wait, how is Alston here? You saw him get cut down. You saw him go down and not get back up. Fuck. But it's good to see him. He looks healthy. He looks good. A little tan, but you know.
Hess is currently sitting on the counter with her feet off the ground, with the bottle clutched close to her chest and the glass. And basically, she's gonna keep drinking until the beast shuts the fuck up.
You've seen Hestia drunk before, Lucy. There are certain things that Tremere could do to decant the tay and blood. But this is roughly akin to watching your lightest drinking friend take a magnum of tequila to themselves and sip from the bottom. No matter how much they've already had, you are sure that it's going to end bad. And the fact that they are still sipping lets you know that it is going to end worse.
She sees them squinting. Don't give me shit. I'm drinking you, okay? That's all there is to it. I'm drinking you.
Oh my god. Hess, of all times, now is when you decide to get drunk.
Hey, I don't need you judging me.
Yes. Also, Lucio is at hunger 3. Is that a problem for this right now?
It very much is, because you see your face, not your face. The face that you wore when you last were in the presence of the lodestone. You see Alston's face on the bottom. You see his name along the side. You realize that they made a cream sherry out of him. Which is an impossibility, because Dizzy burned down the place where she found Drea's body, which means there's another decanting or processing plant in Chicago where Alston's body is. And the scent, however, very much is the feeling of life. The scent, however, is very potent. And even at Hunger 3, the pangs are not something that are easily ignored. And you know, the Wan Fly are very good at decocting vitae and blood into very filling victuals.
Lucio feels some strange sort of way about this. Especially since he was Austin in that memoriam that happened. So it feels a little weird about the idea of drinking. Is it his own blood? No, not really, but it still almost feels that way.
And with that conundrum sitting there, and Miriam holding a roadmap to a family's entire existence, do they remain staring at the work before them? Or do they turn towards that fleeting, brief flicker of red in the corner of their eye? Or do they follow the scent, the stench, emanating from the kitchen?
Miriam will gather up what she can, at least, a notebook or two, and carry it, reading as she goes into the kitchen.
And what's Miriam's hunger currently? Is it 2?
3.
Oh.
3. Right? We're having a friendly time. However, she feels no such compunction because she didn't know this guy.
No.
That smells good. Can I get a drink?
Squinting at Miriam. Halfway between wanting to growl at her and hug her. It's like a real weird mix of emotions going on right now.
Slap, slap, punch, 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 slap, hug, hug, kiss.
Right? Also, she'll slap a notebook down on the table, push it forward. Silvio was apparently trailing Nash and his business connections.
And what did he find?
Oh, he managed to get all the way back to pirating. World traveler, this one. He's got family all over the place.
Is that going to be a problem for us?
Not a clue. But she'll flip through a notebook and point at a name. It's like, this girl is the one that's been haunting me, though.
Haunting you?
Yeah. I thought we went over this.
I think we did, but so much has happened in the last 5 minutes alone that it's kind of been pushed to the side.
At that, Miriam will pull out her own little sketchbook and flip through. It's like, this one.
There's a lovely red dress, a spotlight, the darkness opening around her. Then there's a close-up of her face. And it is impossible for anyone over the age of 20 to not see that face as the face of a child. She was clearly young for her age, well-toned and athletic. But the familial resemblance between her and the young lady on the roof, which is what that voice that cried out to you all, will always be the girl on the roof, is impossible to deny. It is impossible to deny how predatory Nash has been to continue existing. Him willing to damn the entirety of the rest of forever for his own line to continue existing. And as the thoughts of Nash and the scent of all of that lovely creamed sherry wafts through the kitchen, the feeling of life somehow manifested in that liquid, you realize that there is not much to do in the moment except for partake of Alston, to drink deeply and take what you need from that moment, because while there has been blood and death tonight, tomorrow will surely be more of the same. This is your new normal. This is the state of your nation. And as those thoughts begin to percolate and bubble and interweave and mix and dance as they always do, we turn our gaze to the safe room, the Faraday cage, where all of the dangerous items that have come into Sophia's possession remain. She sits in the center of the room. Sure that she, even without looking, knows where each thing is in those drawers, knows where each item over the last few years have been stored. It's quiet. There's no need for the air to circulate in a room such as this. So having entered and closed the door, the only sound that exists is the strangely circulating vitae inside her own head. And the moment that she thinks about a particular item, the medallion from Costa Rica, the dagger from the dolphin, the so forth and so on, down the list of things that she knows is in each of those drawers, she can almost hear his voice. Because the moment she thinks about it, she thinks about getting up and getting it, and she hears him. Sure thing. There's close and there's living in the same space. There's close and existing in the same thought. And while most would find that extraordinarily troubling, in this moment, being close enough to understand all of the work, all of the effort, all of the pains spent to protect her in every way possible is the only warmth there is for her in this moment. And she'll never see the like of it again. And on that note, thank you all for a lovely session. Thank you for a lovely episode. And I will see you all next session. Good night, everybody.